interesting thoughts there. But right now we have one of the people behind the campaign right here, right in the studio. Welcome.
Hi, Ryan.
How's it going, Anne?
Good.
So tell us about the discovery of Pluto. Or no, actually, firstly, one thing I would ask is why the sudden interest? They've been relegated out of the planetary pantheon for a while.
It has been relegated. The interest has reignited because of the New Horizon spacecraft, which has sent such beautiful pictures of Pluto back. I think people really like the heart-shaped pattern on it, and there's been a lot of memes and cartoons. It looks great.
There's been a lot of social media interest in it. Anyway, like every day for the last month, maybe I've seen something new about it.
That's right, because there's new photographs coming back all the time from the spacecraft. As it's kind of gone past now, but it's sending back photographs as it leaves, and it's passing the new moons of Pluto.
Oh, so tell us about the discovery of Pluto, actually, because not many people know a whole lot about it compared to the other planets, really.
Well, Pluto was predicted in about 1915 by a guy called Percival Lowell, but he didn't live to see it actually confirmed. It wasn't actually confirmed as a planet until 1930 by Clyde Tombaugh.
So they had an idea that it was there, like how?
Yeah, there was something out there, but they couldn't quite kind of put their finger on it. So Clyde Tombaugh discovered it by studying a part of the sky and looking at shifts in what he could see.
And this is very late compared to the discovery of the other planets. Would that just be because it's far away?
Because it's far away, because it's not huge. It's a good bit smaller than Earth. And there's still things being discovered. There's another planet out there called Eris, and it's nearly the same size as Pluto.
And is that in our solar system also?
It's also in our solar system.
So it's not, but it's not considered a planet?
It's certainly not considered a planet now because the planets have been redefined. Yeah.
So when did this happen? When was Eris and Pluto demoted?
Pluto was demoted in 2006. There was a meeting that was called by the International Astronomical Union. And it was because so many objects are being found out in the Kuiper Belt that decided, well, we're going to have to decide what exactly is a planet or not. And they came up with 3 criteria. It has to be a celestial body that moves around the sun. It has to have a nearly round shape and has to have cleared its neighbourhood of other objects. And Pluto doesn't quite meet the third criterion. So at this meeting, there was a motion to remove Pluto as a planet, and it was on a Friday afternoon, and a lot of the delegates were, thinking about going home.
Going for pints, maybe.
Going for pints, yeah. So there was only a proportion of the delegates there, and the vote was put to the delegates, and it was passed. But really, poor old Pluto didn't get a fair crack at the whip. So now Pluto is termed a dwarf planet or a Plutoid. And so is Eris and all the other kind of bodies that are being discovered out in the Kuiper Belt.
A Plutoid, so it has a term named after it.
It has a term named after it, but really, it really deserves to be there, because look at how many things are going to have to be rewritten. All those books with the solar system with 9 planets.
And that's kind of where the fuss already emerges, isn't it?
Exactly. Some people think that the word planet is a cultural thing rather than an actual scientific definition.
Yeah. It's strange, actually, because there's a lot of people are having trouble having come to terms with the fact that Pluto is not there anymore. It's not that it's not there, but it's just like suddenly why have some group of people in suits decided that, oh no, that's not.
That's exactly it, and we want to give kind of, if you like, all Earthlings a chance to say we want Pluto. I don't know why people like Pluto so much. Maybe because it's so far away, so cold, so remote, or maybe it's because there's a little dog called Pluto. The planet came first. Pluto, the dog, didn't come until 1931.
They were fairly hot on the heels, though, Disney.
Yeah. They were. Yeah. Pluto is, of course, originally the god of the underworld, so that's where he goes back all that far.
Yeah, I can imagine it mid waves back in the 30s whenever it was discovered.
It was, yeah. It was discovered, and they were having difficulty coming up with a name for it. And a little girl called Venetia Burney in Oxford, she said, I think Pluto would be a good name for the planet, and her grandfather was a librarian at the Bodleian Library, and he suggested it to the professor of astronomy in Oxford, who sent it to the Lowell Observatory, and they liked it, so they went for it.
Well, it was the most appropriate, considering the rest of them were named after the same set of. I don't know. What are you going to do about this?
Well, we want to give people a voice about Pluto being a planet. We've set up a campaign. We have a Facebook page, and it's called Pluto the Planet, and we'd love people to like that Facebook page. We also have a Twitter set up. It's at PlanetSizeMe or hashtag PlanetSizeMe. So we made a Pluto pumpkin for Halloween. We cut out the shape of Pluto's face into a pumpkin. So if you have any pumpkin photos that you have, we'd like you to send them to us to support our campaign as well at hashtag PlanetSizeMe.
So who are you going to lobby exactly about this? Or are you going to even send endless emails to the...
What we're going to do is we're going to accumulate the support we get through this campaign and send it to the International Astronomical Union and say, look, all these people want Pluto back as a planet.
Yeah.
There was a petition run as well in the United States last year. So hopefully if they get more and more kind of knocks on their door, maybe they'll start to take some notice of the Earthlings.
Yeah, so Pluto is really riding a wave at the minute.
That's it.
I wish you all the best with it anyway. Maybe when we're all living on Pluto, we'll be able to thank you for it.
Plenty of water there, so you might. I wouldn't be surprised.
So, what was the name of the page we can visit again?
There's so many PLs in it.
Oh.
The Facebook page is Pluto the Planet, and the Twitter is at PlanetSizeMe.
Brilliant. Thanks very much for coming along, Anne.
Thanks, Ryan.
Okay. So it's Seachtain na Gaeilge this week, and we're going to go to some television. Ask Gaeilge. Epic is a TV series that was released as part of the 1916 Rising commemorations, but it paints rural Irish life for young people in a light that hadn't been done before. It's a real sidestep for TG Carr from their usual themes. No other young people's programme on the channel would address drug use, underage drinking, or the dangers of social media, and writer Mike O'Leary had that in his mind when he was writing the series.
I think that was something that kind of attracted me to the project in the first place, because I think it's a very interesting time to be a teenager in a rural town, because, well, one, I suppose, no other time or a country's history has rural towns being dying in a way that they are, but equally, at no other time have kids been able to kind of like straddle these two worlds, like the very, very provincial, but then the global. Like, they have one foot in kind of like these back alley towns, and then another foot in like, like you say, like the Instagram, the Tumblr, the YouTube, whatever. They're able to make it kind of like, a splash globally. So I think that, it's a very interesting time to be a kid. Or be a teenager in those places.
Yeah.
So I think that's what attracted me to it.
So did you spend any time talking to people living in the recession-hit Ireland?
Yeah. So I'm actually I'm from Cork, but I'm living in London. But I actually went to Galway to write it. And we kind of met with a couple of I wouldn't call them focus groups, but they were like groups from drama schools and stuff like that. And we kind of just sat down and we talked to them. We kind of said what are the issues facing kind of like you today, and what are your attitudes to, kind of I suppose figures of authority, and what do you think? It was more kind of like trying to get into the head of what were the unique challenges facing teenagers today.
And so you must have got plenty of good anecdotes and stuff from them, did you?
Yeah,
good stories.
Yeah. I mean, there's one, there's one character, Claire, who's kind of a wayward mum of one of the characters. She very much came from just this one comment that one of the girls was saying that her friend, her mum was always saying oh, you look grand if you had a bit of blusher on, and that was one of the things that really it stayed to the last script. I mean, there was other stuff that kind of were lost along the way, but yeah.
So it's a lot of research.
I mean, it's pretty wild. I mean, I'm kind of I'm 32 now. I'm kind of hearing these kids kind of talk about how the big thing for me was how much they weren't drinking, how much kind of that they were kind of they'd see kind of drinking and a lot of drug taking, and it's kind of the excesses of their parents and stuff. And that to me was kind of shocking
Yeah.
because you know, there was nothing else to do for us when we were growing up and drinking.
Yeah, so you had to kind of stretch it a little, did you?
Yeah, I mean, well, you know, it was so, like I suppose in the kind of like in the episode, you know, in the series, we have kind of like only really one big kind of like party scene.
Yeah.
Whereas, you know, I suppose if you look at something like Skins, which was made nearly 10 years ago now, you know, it's like every episode was like them getting hooned and then taking like, you know, drugs or whatever. So we decided, you know, it was kind of like we used it sparingly and like, you know, yeah. So, well, yeah, I think kind of like if you had that, like just them getting out of their nut, the whole series, it would actually look like really, really dated.
You would get a bit fed up of it if it's doing that all the time, really.
Yeah.
So again, with the characters, they were all based from your research camp in Galway, I suppose, or they were a few based off people you knew, or
I mean, it's kind of like, I suppose, it's a weird alchemy because, you know, with these shows, kind of like you don't want to like go towards cliches. You want to like create cliche characters, but at the same time, you kind of want to like hang the characters on certain kind of archetypes. So it was a kind of a mix of like, you know, different types of character archetypes, but also kind of societal issues that we thought, you know, teenagers were kind of facing. You know, so like, you know, Mona, for example, like her mom had her when she was 15, so she kind of like, you know, this 31-year-old mom, like for a 16-year-old daughter, and she, you know, she kind of symbolizes the whole kind of like, you know, that the generation above teenagers today are kind of like a little bit irresponsible and kind of won't grow up and all that kind of stuff. So I mean, that kind of like was born from, I suppose, those talks with the kids in Galway.
And you said, yeah, as you say, like Mona, there are a lot of strong kind of female characters, and there's a moment in it, like a fourth wall breaking moment, where they're like, oh yeah, just to test how a series or a TV show has enough feminism or something, you have to have an extended conversation between two female characters. I thought that was really good.
The Bechdel test.
Yeah.
So we kind of like, you know, I think that's something that, like, you know, it's very kind of like, you know, it's kind of a hot topic at the moment, and I think you know, you have a choice. You can kind of tackle it with a little bit kind of like tongue in cheek, or just kind of like you say, a bit kind of, I suppose, meta in a way. And with a show with kind of like, you know, a show like Epic, where we kind of like tried to kind of like be a little bit like anarchic and a little bit kind of tongue in cheek, we thought that was the best way to kind of like tackle that. But I mean, like, it still was very important that, like, you know, there were these kind of like strong female characters. Just because, you know, I think kind of like, especially in Irish television, you know, up until, I suppose, there's a bit of a dearth in there. But also, like, you know, female characters are kind of like, you know, kind of get pissed and vomit and kind of stuff like that. You know, just fun, rich, well-rounded kind of female characters. That was very important to us, I think.
Yeah, exactly. You actually wrote for Misfits before. Did that stand to you when you were pitching for this?
I mean, so I straight out of college, I got a job doing their like new media stuff, and kind of worked on that for a couple of years, and then kind of graduated into the writers' room, and then that was kind of why they initially approached me with Maga Media, the production company. Just because I suppose they were kind of like keen to do the kind of post-watershed teen drama kind of show, and they, I mean, like, you know, when they approached me first, it was kind of like, man, just got the wrong guy to show here. Like, not only do I not speak Irish, I'm also like musically retarded. I mean, just could not, like, you know, it's like no. But I think they were quite keen that, like, you know, that sensibility, that kind of like, you know, because comedy drama, I think, is a hard thing to get right, especially the kind of ratio to comedy drama. And I think Misfits was something that they really kind of nailed it, that right balance. And I think they were kind of like keen to bring that sensibility over to Epic.
Yeah. So you're not a Gaeilgeoir then, no? Or are you?
No. Yeah.
So was that difficult, or did you get someone to translate the script?
Yeah, it was kind of like, you know, yes, we got a translator involved, but I mean, it's kind of, you know, the whole fact that, I suppose, you kind of study Irish for like 14 years, and you know, everyone has like rudimentary understanding of the language, so I think that kind of stood to me that, like, you know, you knew what kind of, like, you know, I suppose you know, when you're writing in English, there's some tools that kind of like weren't available. You know, in terms of kind of, I suppose, how you construct sentences and jokes and kind of stuff like that.
Yeah.
And having that kind of rudimentary knowledge of the language kind of like made you aware of things that you weren't able to use that would have been kind of lost in the translation. And it just kind of meant that, you know, there was other things like, you know, you kind of ramp up the physical comedy and kind of things like that. So it was, you know, I mean, like, yeah, it was translating and stuff, but at the same time, that kind of like, you know, primary school and secondary school education really stood to me, I think.
Yeah, it was always kind of in your mind whenever you're writing it. Like you mentioned music there, and arguably you could have done this without some of the music scenes in it. Was it important to you that they be in there, or was it important to the producers?
Well, I think it was kind of like, that was initially the kind of like the USP of the show. I think it was kind of like on the back of like all those, you know, T.G. Lurgan and Sholin and all these kind of like translation songs that were really popular about 2 years ago when we first started the project. And I think that was something that PG Carr kind of like, you know, wanted to evolve. And I think as well, music is a real draw because it's kind of, even if you don't have the language, you know, it works really well in PG Carr.
Yeah.
So I think they were kind of like, yeah, they were quite keen to do that. And then as we kind of like got down further and further into the show, we kind of realized that like the cooler musical moments were the times when it wasn't kind of like, I suppose, what you call, like, you know, they were the breaks from reality. They weren't the kind of like the moments when when the characters knew they were singing in the kind of like the reality of the show. It was like these little kind of like reveries, these like magic realist moments, which kind of like you know, portray what was going on inside the character's head.
Yeah.
And I think they were the cooler moments. So it was kind of like, you know, the bits that were nothing like Glee and a bit more kind of, I don't know, Twins Peaky, I suppose.
Yeah, and did you pick the music yourself, actually?
Yeah. So it was kind of like, well, that was an interesting process because, like, you know, so much of it had to do with the narrative and to do with the characterization. And you would pick a song, and then the producers would go off and try and secure the rights. And sometimes the bands weren't too happy because, like, you know, because we were translating, and for the translation to scan, sometimes you'd have to kind of like change one or two of the lyrics. And some bands, would I mention any names?
Go on.
weren't too happy about that. So we had to you'd have to like go away and like sometimes it would just be the absolute perfect song for like, you know, the end of an episode. And you'd have to go away and try and like find a new song just that fit as well as the old one. Which was, you know, frustrating, but it was also enjoyable. Satisfying.
You don't take these things into account whenever you're watching whenever you're watching the series, actually.
Yeah.
A lot of background work that goes into these series.
Oh, totally. I mean, like, yeah, I think, you know, the fact that you know, any television shows get made is a sheer miracle. Like, it's, you know, what you see on screen, it's you know, it's the end result of work of so many, you know, people and just hours and
And so, whenever you're watching it back, actually, did it come out the way you thought it would come out?
Yeah, I don't think anything kind of ever does, and that's a good thing in a way. Because I think, you know, television is so collaborative, so much more than kind of, I think, like, you know, film is collaborative as well, but television especially, I think. So you kind of like, when, especially as a writer, you kind of have to like, you know, finish your scripts and just kind of give them over to the production. You kind of like, you have to kind of relinquish authorship in a way because, you know, there's so many different people involved in this thing and so many people putting in their own kind of like creativity and their own time and stuff. So I think you kind of have to like put whatever you thought it was going to turn out like to the back of your head and just kind of like embrace this brand new thing. I mean, I think, you know, Louise did an amazing job, and the cast are just, you know, are incredible. And it was, you know, such an amazing surprise, like seeing it for the first time. I mean, like, it's, you know, the cast, which is such a kind of rare thing for Irish television, are like this, you know, 5 completely unknown actors. You know, if you look at most shows, like it's kind of like there's a bit of a revolving doors in terms of like the actors that are seen on screen.
Yeah.
But like, you know, Louise and the producer Kira just went out and, you know, absolutely threw the nest wide and cast the net wide and just brought these 5 incredible actors out of nowhere.
Indeed. So Epic it'll be wrapping up this week. Seacht na Gaeilge, actually, quite appropriately. Will there be more from Epic?
Well, I think there's so much more stories in there for the characters. Whether or not, we're kind of like discussing it with the channel at the moment. So it's all up in the air. It's all to pay for.
Okay. Well, we'll look out for developments in that front anyway.
Cheers.
All right. Mike O'Leary, thanks very much for coming on.
No worries. Thanks very much, Ryan.
We'll move away from film now, about time, and into something more patriotic. Rebellion finished a few weeks ago, RTÉ's first major project for the 1916 commemorations. It made a big splash with its cast, its historical accuracy, and it kind of caught some people out that way. People weren't too shy about criticising it, whether it be on social media or on the Late Late Show. I was lucky enough to have a word with the maker Colin Tevan to see just what he had in mind when he was making it.
2016 is the 100th anniversary of the Easter Rising, and we all remember it like it was yesterday, right? Or at least we will come the end of the year. Media outlets and political parties have been in full flow. They're releasing leaflets, supplements, armaments? No armaments. Even chocolate proclamations. And the first people out of the blocks were RTE with their highly anticipated drama Rebellion. It's no surprise everyone was talking about it. With a cast boasting Aidan Gillen, Brian Gleeson, Ruth Bradley, and of course, notorious love-hate cat killer Barry Keoghan amongst others, people took to Twitter to have their say. Eamon Lowe said,
RTE, surely they didn't sing the Irish anthem in English inside the GPO in 1916.
Aidan O'Dea said,
I wasn't going to give out about the love-hate cast, but this is taking the piss. Did he just get a part for killing that cat? #rebellion.
Colin Kenny said,
Catelyn Stark, Barristan Selmy, and that guy who shot the cat from Love Hate, all in rebellion.
And Vonnie quite eloquently put,
Pretty much the same as Love Hate then, all riding in rifles, #rebellion.
But distracting castings aside, it was pretty good going. So how is it born? Well, it turns out creator Colin Tevan has some history with the RTE. He made Charlie the dramatisation of former Taoiseach Charlie Haughey.
They came to me saying they were looking for an idea, and they had an idea, and I said I really didn't want to do that idea. And they said, why not? And I actually talked them through all my issues with what I didn't want to do, which was the great heroic man version of Irish history. And from that discussion, they seemed to be excited with what I did propose.
So, why not go for the heroic version? Nationalists, you might want to cover your ears.
One, I'm bored of the usual grand, heroic and rather teleological nationalist version of history that, somehow national independence was some historical inevitability. It really wasn't. So, we all live through times. We don't know which way history is going to fall. And I wanted to see a version of history which gave a sense of that. No one knew what was actually going to befall for the next 8 or 10 years.
So nobody knew what was going to happen. So what way did he take it?
I really wanted to look at what it was like to live through those times. I was less interested with why all the grand decisions were made. So working from that kind of people's eye view, point of view, led me to research the kind of witness statements and testimonies, I suppose, of more just more average, normal people and how they experienced it.
What was it like to live through those times? Is there a crucial difference here?
I was very struck by the fact that the Dublin crowds really en masse almost rejected the nationalists and the rebels initially. And it's really only after the executions that the sort of popular opinion began to change. And so I wanted to sort of reflect that journey. That's the journey of the series of Rebellion, from a rejection of, I suppose, violent nationalism to the majority of people becoming so disillusioned with British rule that they begin to swing behind it. So And that's not normally the story that's taken, the line that's given.
So it's unconventional how it's politics. I'm sure that's refreshing for everyone, right?
A dreadful farrago. Badly written, badly directed, and I've spent a better hour watching paint dry.
Uh-oh. That was the sound of Robert Bala. He's an Irish artist, and that clip was from The Late Late Show after the first few episodes of Rebellion were out. Some people just don't like change, but I'm sure Colin wasn't too hard on him though. What did he think of The Late Late Show that night?
I haven't seen it. I only know Robert Bala as a kind of an artist of the 1970s. I have no idea what expertise he has.
Ouch, Colin. Ouch. We're gonna need some aloe vera for that burn. But some more lay people commented on supposed inaccuracies. Just the Beginning, awesome name by the way, she said,
They would, yeah, be singing the national anthem in English. Feck's sake, RTE. # rebellion.
Bill Groves said,
Singing the anthem in English in the GPO? Don't think so. # rebellion. # RTE.
And Mark McHale also was a bit sceptical, saying,
RTE, surely they didn't sing the Irish anthem in English inside the GPO in 1916.
There are lots of tweets like this, and lots and lots and lots and lots, all from lay people, but they do have an eye for details. Or do they?
You know, when some of these people go, you know, it's outrageous that they never would have sung the national anthem in English in the GPO, whereas actually the Irish version wasn't written till the 1920s. And if they went to someone like Joe Good's memoir of the time, they sang it every night at the GPO. Or, you know, there was complaints about the shooting of Constable O'Brien, and actually, you know, we got that historically exactly accurate.
Sock 'em, Colin. Sock 'em. But it can't all be right, is it?
There are a few tiny historical inaccuracies, but actually, you know, things like using the word brainwash. But I'd stand over every actual incident in the whole drama.
Well, okay. So every major incident was right in Rebellion. But what of Charlie? I may be taking liberties here, but the best incident in Charlie for me is the fight in the Dáil. For those of you not in the know, it's where Des O'Malley pulls a sword from the wall and waves it around madly. Irish TV magic. So that was all kosher, yeah?
It sort of happened.
Don't tear down my dreams, Colin.
There was a huge punch-up after that vote of confidence that Charlie narrowly won. He had a lot of supporters in the lobbies, and all the ushers had been told to go home, and they attacked the TDs who'd voted against him. Des O'Malley did not wave a scimitar. However, I read that one TD in his memoir said he had actually, when they were punching Jim Gibbons to the ground, and he died 2 weeks later of a heart attack.
Sorry about that, Jim.
He actually had a ceremonial samurai sword he had taken in to hang on his office wall, and he drew it.
Never mind. So what happened?
Everyone backed off, and that was the end of that. So, in one sense, and Des O'Malley I believe, said in the papers last year, it wasn't true, but in spirit it sort of happened. An opposition to Haughey TD did wave a ceremonial sword in Leinster House, and people backed off.
Well, that makes me feel a bit better. But judging by all of the ease of people to criticise his work, all of these history projects must have lots of pressure. But he took Charlie, he took this, he's not afraid of it. But it can affect his work when there are living links to history, like in Charlie.
Something like Haughey, yes, was because the people are still very much, many people in it are still alive or very recently deceased. So yes, and I believe that's one reason why we didn't wish to dramatise Charlie's own family, because they weren't involved in the politics of the time. So therefore, we felt it would have been prurient of us to have made dramatical mileage out of them.
But surely leaving such a big part of his life out would affect his telling of it, no?
As I said, I was interested in Charlie, the politician. I was interested in his absolute craving for power, and what drove that, and what lengths he would go to, but also, what some of the achievements he had, and it was that story, not the domestic story, that interested me. Yeah. There's obviously could be a story there.
Diplomatic as always there, Colin. So, with Rebellion over, will there be more?
Rebellion 2 is in development. That doesn't mean it's been greenlit yet, but it is one of the things that the writer always has to work. The writer has to do his work before everyone else. I have to carry on like it is happening.
Well, that's Colin Teeban. Thanks to Kevin Kelly for getting the audio, thanks to all the voice actors for reading the tweets, and thanks to Colin for actually talking to us. Ryan McBride, reporting for Barometer. So right now we're going to move away from music and we're going to head to a topic a little more specialised, to the Dublin Burlesque Festival, and that takes place this weekend starting on Thursday. The festival is in its 4th year now, and since its first run it has spawned a whole lot of different similar festivals in Galway and Belfast and etc, and it's getting a foothold here. I know a lot of people think of burlesque as somewhat taboo or X-rated without ever having actually seen it, and for me the only notion of it I had was from that Simpsons episode about 10 years ago. But in the wake of this festival, I decided to get in touch with Miss Epiphany Demeanor, one of the organisers of the event, to find out what Irish burlesque was really about.
We are running our 5th festival this year, so it started 4 years ago.
4 years ago.
It was a rather more ambitious affair back then as well. We put on an entire week of activities, and realised that was probably a little bit too much for ourselves and for everybody, so we've honed it and brought the quality up as opposed to the quantity.
And so, is there anything else of this kind in Ireland, or was there at the time?
There certainly wasn't at the time, no. Since then, the Belfast Burlesque Festival is running its 2nd year, and the Galway Burlesque Festival started this year as well. They just finished about a month ago.
So you're kind of breaking the mould here. But how does one get into burlesque, though, in a place where there was nothing before?
Well, step one, I suppose, is come to a show.
Yeah.
See what it's all about. I started by going to what I understand was the first burlesque show in Ireland. It was a fairly small affair in that it was a screening of the movie Cabaret, followed by 2 performances by The Adventures of Walter, who was a gentleman from London who was since retired, and A Modesty Place. So that was my first introduction. And I was hooked. Went to every show after that. So
it's like a bit of a community, is it? Or is it difficult to get the audiences, or once you get the audience, do they keep returning?
We do have a very dedicated audience. Yes, I'd say approximately half of every show is our regular audience.
Yeah, is it hard to get people in though? I mean, I know there's a lot of stigma around the whole topic.
Yeah, there's still quite a bit of misunderstanding as to what it actually is. But once people do see anything that is actually burlesque, they're shocked at how misguided they were.
Yeah.
So a lot of, shall we say, our new recruits to the audience would be somebody who went to a show and said to their friends, "Oh, I went to the show, it wasn't what I expected at all, you must come along." So that's very much how we do get new audience. And then sometimes it's people just see a poster and think, "Oh, that looks interesting."
Yeah.
And pop along.
So, how X-rated do the shows actually get, or is it just?
They're quite tame, really, and they vary again depending on the venue, the audience, the event, whether it's a corporate event or whether it's a public show. You'd see more on a beach, to be honest, most times.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Full nudity is never accepted.
No.
It's, as far as I know, it's illegal. And it's not what we want anyway. As somebody said, everybody looks better with a little something on, and it's what happens in your imagination.
Leave more to the imagination.
It adds to it as well. And in Ireland in particular, we have a slightly different approach to burlesque. A lot of what people see as classic burlesque is the American and the Australian models, where they're very beautiful girls that do striptease out of very beautiful costumes, and that's fine. But we in Ireland tend to have more of an affinity for the stories and the narrative and parody, which to us is what burlesque actually means, the origins of it.
Yeah, because that's
more like a satire.
That's what I was going to ask. Actually, do you need to be physically attractive to do this, or?
It doesn't do you any harm, but
no.
definitely not a necessity because, as I said, that's not exactly what we're about here. Because if you want to see pretty women, then open a magazine.
Go on to the internet.
All over the place.
Exactly.
So we're very much about all shapes and sizes and all personalities and all characters, and particularly with the boys as well. We have a community of boylesque in Dublin.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask that also. Like, are there many male burlesque dancers, and what do they do?
Well, 4 spring to mind immediately. 5. If I sat and thought about it, I'd probably go up to 10 or 11. But yeah, we do. We certainly do. We've got the likes of the Big Spender Boys, who are hilarious, talented, easy on the eye as well. We have Fabio Iga de Flato, who is another stellar performer. He kind of portrays the 7 stone weakling that gets his own back on life. So while he's an attractive man himself, he doesn't come across as the bodybuilder, Chippendale kind of character. That's not what his acts are about. And I mean, none of our crew would be equivalent to the Chippendale look, really. But again, they are all shapes and sizes, heights, widths, whatever.
How would people get tickets?
Online, Eventbrite, or you can go directly to the Dublin Burlesque Festival website, which is dublinburlesquefestival.ie.
Okay.
But everything is available on the website.
And strictly over 18s, obviously, I would say.
Well, unfortunately, because of drinks rules, etc. as well.
Oh, okay. Well, I wish you the best of luck with it anyway, and thanks very much for coming on.
Thank you very, very much.